Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for coming. We are here today to demand justice for Nia Long. I'm here with my client, Nia Love, standing beside me, and her beautiful family, her brother, her mom, her dad, her grandma, and many friends, cousins, to support Nia Love. Nia Love is going to speak. My colleague, civil rights attorney Terry Gibbs, will speak, and then I will speak and explain why we're here and what the next steps are and what we're going to ask of the community in this case. Thank you so much for coming. Nia?
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
On May 29th, my life was forever changed. I attended a peaceful protest with my younger brother, and while protesting police brutality, I was struck by a rubber bullet to the left eye. It was one of the most painful experiences I've ever experienced in my life. For over a week, I've been at multiple doctor's appointments and have already had one surgery. The surgeon... While speaking to the surgeon after my surgery, I was informed that there's a 99% chance that I will be blind in my left eye. I have another upcoming surgery next week for them to try to repair it a little more. I am a mother of two beautiful daughters, and they have never seen their mother with an injury remotely like this, and it has really taken a toll on them. My 5-year-old, she can't look at me without crying. I am here today for them, to show them that no matter what happens, we fight for what is right. I intend to fight for justice for myself and for the countless others that have suffered traumatic injuries, for rubber bullets and any other type of police brutality. I fight for justice for Black lives because Black lives matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Nia. And now I'd like to introduce civil rights attorney Terry Gibbs from my law firm, who's part of the team working on the Nia Love case with me. Terry.
Good morning. That was so great, Nia. So my name is Terry Gibbs, and I'm an attorney at the Bloom firm. I'll take off my mask. It is ironic and unfortunate that we are here today because our client, Nia Love, was brutalized by law enforcement while peacefully protesting police brutality. Yes. Nia and hundreds of others attended the May 29th protest in order to exercise their right to free speech and assembly. And what was law enforcement's response? To indiscriminately shoot harmful and deadly rubber bullets into the crowd. Miss Love, a mother, 29, at the prime of her life, is now left with a permanent injury. This is tragic. She was harmed by the very law enforcement system set up to protect her. Yes. Miss Love already had to live with the fact that being Black in America is not safe, and now she has to cope with the fact that she cannot be safe lawfully and peacefully protesting. Yes. We stand for you, Nia, and we demand accountability. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. This country was built on protest. Protest of the king. Protest of a foreign power, making us their subjects. No American should be a subject anymore. Some of the greatest Americans in our history were protesters, like Rosa Parks or Martin Luther King. And today's protesters will go down in the history books just like those other great Americans. Protest is patriotic. Protest is American. And that's why it's enshrined in the First Amendment, the very First Amendment in our Bill of Rights, the right of the people to peacefully assemble. The protests by people like Nia Love and her family and friends have inspired not only this country, where hundreds upon hundreds of Black Lives Matter protests are now happening all over the country, including in small towns, in big cities, in small towns in the South that are 98% white, all over this country and all over the world. People like Nia are making important change all over the world. She inspires me, she inspires her community, she inspires the country, and she inspires the world. And what did she get for doing that? She got a rubber bullet to the face. I want to say something very important to the community in Sacramento. We need, in order to get justice for Nia Love, we need witnesses and we need video. If you were at the protest on May 29th at around midnight on the 12th Avenue overpass when the police shot rubber bullets, we need to hear from you. My name is Lisa Bloom. My website is thebloomfirm.com. I'm easy to find on social media, Lisa Bloom. Please reach out to me. Witnesses and evidence are essential in every case. I've been doing these cases for a long time. I know what the police are going to say. Oh, we don't have the video. Oh, our equipment wasn't turned on that night. They're all probably going to line up in support of the officers with some kind of story that resulted in Nia being blinded in one eye. That is not acceptable. The community has come together and we need your help now. Please, please reach out to me if you were a witness or you have evidence, especially a video of this incident. Let me tell you what we are going to do next. We are going to file all of the correct claims to make sure that we get justice for Nia. That means an internal affairs complaint, and we expect immediate action, Sacramento PD, on that internal affairs complaint. We don't want it to get lost in the shuffle. I don't want to hear about you don't have time. I don't want to get dragged down in bureaucracy, because if it is, we're going to be out here again demanding justice for Nia. Secondly, we're going to file a lawsuit so that she gets compensated for this injury, this horrific lifelong injury of being blinded in one eye. We are also going to demand criminal charges for the officer who fired directly into the face of this peaceful protester, which he had no right to do, and for all of the other officers who stood by and were complicit. Nia was down. No officer came to help her. No officer came to render medical aid to see if she was okay, which is a violation of their responsibilities and obligations, which are, just a reminder, to protect and to serve. To protect and to serve every member of the community, no matter what color, no matter if she is exercising her First Amendment rights to make our world a better place. That is their obligation, to protect and to serve. Nia is now blinded in one eye for the rest of her life. But we can see the injustice that happened to her and to all of the other victims of police brutality. At a demonstration against police brutality, Nia was a victim of more horrific police brutality. I'm very pleased that this is not just a moment, this is a movement. And we have with us 3 fabulous California State Assembly members who have decided enough is enough, and they have proposed legislation to prevent this kind of thing from happening in the future. Because justice is not just getting justice for victims after they've been shot. Justice is preventing this kind of thing from ever happening again. So I want to introduce first Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez, somebody I have known for some time. She is such a powerful voice for the community, for workers, for animals, and for victims of violence. And she will tell you about a bill that she is proposing that we fully support. One moment, Ms. Gonzalez, we're just going to do our COVID safety.
Thank you. You know, Nia is special, but she's not unique in what's happened to her. And so a few weeks ago, I represent South San Diego. A few weeks ago, a grandmother was at a peaceful, well, it turned a little less peaceful, but she was peacefully protesting and is still in the hospital. She had to be put in a medically induced coma because of a so-called rubber bullet or beanbag or whatever the police want to call it, but what they used to call non-lethal use of force, which is often not often, but sometimes lethal and very dangerous. Along with her, we know that bystanders got hit. There is an 18-year-old who was driving his car, wasn't even at the protest, and he got hit. And what we found was there is no standard use for these projectiles and the use of those by the police. So even though the manufacturer says, hey, it's not supposed to be pointed at the face, the manufacturer of these products say it's supposed to be pointed at the ground, it's supposed to, deter violent protests. It's not supposed to be used for peaceful protests. It's not a crowd disbursement activity and a peaceful First Amendment rights type of thing. And we need to make sure that we have a standard use of force when it comes to these projectiles. A lot of people don't realize that after the Vietnam War, they were using so-called less than lethal bullets, I think plastic bullets at the time, for crowd disbursement. They actually banned them because a woman died. And then sometime in the 80s, and we're not quite sure when or why, these projectiles came back into use. And they're somehow looked beyond because they're called things like bean bags or foam or rubber bullets. But as I'm sure, unfortunately, Nia could tell you, there's nothing rubber about them. They're actually huge and contain a bunch of little shells that, BBs almost, that can hit people. And when it's pointed straight in the face of a protester, it's clear what the police were trying to do, not peacefully go about their business. So we are introducing, in fact, we're taking a bill that exists today. If you looked it up right now, it won't have the right language. It's AB 66. And by the end of today, it'll have the intent language to create this standard of force to be sure that when we're talking about any kind of use of projectiles that they call less than lethal. And let's be clear, there was a study done by the British Journal of Medicine that said 3% of the time when these are used, it actually kills somebody. 15% of the time, they end up with a life-altering injury just like Nia has. This is not acceptable. It is not acceptable in Sacramento, in San Diego, or across the United States as we see these being used. So we're going to change that, and I'm hopeful Nia feels good enough that she's going to come talk to the legislature about her experience. What an amazing young woman we have, using such a terrible experience to be able to speak out and ensure this doesn't, or hope this doesn't happen again. And let's make sure it doesn't. Thank you so much, Nia, for willing to come out and putting yourself in harm. And thank you. I'm a mom. My daughter's been out protesting in LA, and thank you for doing what you're doing. Things can only change through protest, so thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Justice. 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 When I say AB, you say 66. AB. 66. AB. 66. AB. 66. Okay, we gotta support the people who are supporting us. It's not easy to get a bill passed, and we appreciate that. Next, I would like to introduce Assemblymember Ash Kalra. Thank you so much for coming. One moment, we're doing the COVID safety.
Thank you. Nia, I'm so sorry for what happened to you. It's interesting because when we think about protests, and remember before the tragic murder of George Floyd, there were other folks that were protesting at the Capitol, if you all recall. And some of them were accosting police officers, and yet I didn't see rubber bullets or tear gas or batons then, right? But yet all of a sudden when people are rising up for Black Lives Matter, a cause that's 401 years in the making, you're seeing this level of violence against peaceful protesters. And I think it's interesting of note that we have an author from San Diego. I'm from San Jose. We have a colleague here from Los Angeles. We have other co-authors, including one from San Francisco, on Lorena Gonzalez's bill. This is not an issue of one bad apple officer or one bad apple department. This is an issue of how militarized weapons and a militarized mindset is used against the people. And so we need to demilitarize. The police departments are acting like an occupying force, and that somehow we're the enemy because we're protesting. And I gotta mention something, as Lorena just mentioned, unfortunately, Nia is not the only one. And we've seen, not just in the state, but around the country, devastating injuries like Nia's that are occurring for peaceful protest. And I have a friend of mine that I've known for a number of years named Derek Sanderlin in San Jose. I actually met him because he's a barista at a local coffee shop. But he also has been very active over the last 2-3 years as an African-American leader, and San Jose doesn't have that many large African-American community anymore. He recognized his role in stepping forward to create peace with the police department. For the last 2-3 years, he's been a mediator. He's been helping to train police officers on how to de-escalate, train police officers on what African-Americans are thinking, feeling when they're approached by the police, when they're encountered by the police. Well, he was shot by a rubber bullet on the Friday night, the first day, major day of protests in San Jose. He was shot because he got in between the police and a young woman, and he was afraid what was going to happen to the young woman. He stood there blocking her way so that they couldn't hurt her. He was shot multiple times by rubber bullets and was sent immediately to the hospital for emergency surgery. And he's been told that he may not be able to have kids again because he was hit in the groin. This is a peacemaker that now his life's been forever changed, similar to Nia. So I mention that because there are numerous stories of decent people that are willing to put themselves in harm's way to get the truth out, to put themselves in harm's way so others won't get hurt, to put themselves in harm's way because so many black lives have been harmed for so many years. And so I'm proud to stand with Assemblymember Gonzalez to say enough is enough. We cannot have this abuse against people that are peacefully protesting. We must end the militarization of our police against their own people. And so I want to thank all of you for standing together with Nia as a wonderful leader to march us forward. And I'll do whatever I can to make sure that this bill is successful and that we continue to march forward on how we can end this militarized policing in our neighborhoods and against peaceful protesters.
For Nia, Black lives, Black lives, Black lives, rubber bullets, maim, rubber bullets, rubber bullets. Thank you. You know, I'm so honored that these 3 assembly members have joined us today on very short notice and taken time out of their very busy schedules to be here. A lot gets done at the state level, and I'm so appreciative that you have taken the time on this very important issue to be here. You're doing fabulous work. We really appreciate you. I want to introduce the 3rd member of the Assembly who has taken time out of her busy schedule to join us today, and that's Assembly Member Wendy Carrillo. I hope I said that correctly, who, and I also hope I say this part correctly, is co-principal sponsor of the bill of AB 66. If I didn't get that language right, you'll correct me.
Thank you and good morning. Nia, thank you for your courage. Thank you for bearing witness to history. Thank you for being the strong, courageous American that you are, and for being the loving mom that you are, and for bearing witness to your last name, love. That is the purpose of why we are all here, in the memory of George Floyd and so many others. I have been a journalist for the past 12 years, and I ran for office because I wanted to do something different. I wanted to make a change in my own community, and I'm proudly representing the city of Los Angeles and East LA. I have been a part of protests as a young woman, as a child. I'm the oldest of 5 daughters. I've taken my 4 younger sisters to so many protests, and I can't even imagine the level of escalation that we're currently living now. I have been tear gassed. I have had personal friends been hit by rubber bullets, some of whom have also lost eyesight, some of whom have been just incredibly hurt. And what we are seeing now is not the America that we should be creating. And I am joining in this legislation because I think it is needed, it is just, and we need to think about ways that we reform our criminal justice system, the way that we reform our police departments, that we make sure that those police officers who want to be here with us now can work within their own law enforcement unions and say enough is enough. We need to change the system from within, and we need to make sure that the people are being protected and served, which is what they have been ordered to do. It says it on their cards, it says it on their shields, it says it when they take an oath to become a police officer. I want to share a quote with you that inspires me every day, and I was looking for it just now because I want to say it right. It's by Cesar Chavez, who said, "Once social change begins, it cannot be reversed. You cannot uneducate the person who has learned to read. You cannot humiliate the person who feels pride. You cannot oppress the people who are not afraid anymore." And the people are not afraid anymore, and we haven't been for quite some time. And these protests on the street are a testament of the courage of every American who simply wants to live a life of dignity, which is deserving to each and every one of us. So we will move forward with this legislation. We will make sure that it is something that the United States can look to in terms of guidance, because where California goes, so does the nation. And we will make sure that it gets done. Unas poquitas palabras en español. Mi nombre es Wendy Carrillo, yo represento la ciudad de Los Ángeles y el este de Los Ángeles, y estamos aquí contra la violencia de la policía que se ha demostrado a través del estado de California y a través del país. La comunidad latina está en solidaridad con la comunidad afroamericana en el movimiento de Black Lives Matter. No es la primera vez que nuestras comunidades se han juntado para la justicia, y le queremos decir a través del estado de California que cada persona que ha sido involucrada en una protesta, que ha recibido la violencia contra ellos, que se reporten y sepan que hay personas en la legislatura que pelean con ellos, y que vamos a cambiar las leyes de este estado para poder proteger a nuestra comunidad latina, a nuestra comunidad inmigrante, a nuestra comunidad afroamericana y todas las minorías, y cada persona que ha tratado de hacer algo positivo para nuestra comunidad, pero que sigue contra la violencia de la policía. Todo esto cambia, estamos viendo los cambios a través del estado y a través del país, y en Los Ángeles, la ciudad más grande del estado de California, hemos visto miles de personas en la calle protestando contra la violencia de la policía. El cambio viene, y el cambio viene aquí del estado de California. Gracias, Nia, por todo lo que has hecho, por tu valentía, por el valor de salir adelante, y vamos a salir. Gracias. Sí se puede.
There's parts of that we could all understand. Sí se puede! Black Lives Matter! Thank you, Nia. Right? We all got that. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias, Wendy, and everybody else. I'm going to open it up for questions in just a second. One of my favorite quotes from John F. Kennedy is, "Things do not happen. Things are made to happen." This is the community that is making it happen. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming, and especially thank you, Nia. Are there any questions? Yes. Yes, thank you so much. We believe it was Sacramento PD. We recognize that there were other law enforcement agencies there, county sheriffs and California Highway Patrol. So that is possible. We don't know. We're going to demand the video that the police should have, and that should answer their question. But our best estimate at this time is that it was Sacramento PD. In terms of the timing of events, I don't want to get into too much detail at this point, but Nia, do you want to talk about what you recall? The protest actually began right around here, didn't it? Yeah. And then it continued. Why don't you talk about that? Sorry, COVID safety.
So we started here, and then we marched all the way down this street to the, I think it's 12th Street overpass, 12th Avenue, and that's kind of where we stopped, and we stayed for about 3-4 hours. I know when I got home after I got hit, it was around 12:45, almost 1, so somewhere around that time.
Around midnight.
Around midnight, yeah. So I'm not really sure the exact time, but around midnight.
Thank you. You could just stay here. Everybody, this is my daughter, Sarah Bloom, who's also a civil rights attorney in the firm, and kindly is doing our COVID safety today.
Yeah, I was referring to those that were complaining about not being able to get haircuts. Those that were showing up because of stay-at-home orders due to COVID. And, you know, they showed up very angrily at the Capitol. There was physical conflict with some of the officers that were lined up in front of the Capitol, pushing, shoving, yet we didn't see the degree of violence that was used against those protesters as we've seen against Black Lives Matter protesters around the country. And that's what tells you this is not just about one city, one state. This is an issue with policing and how they're approaching the Black Lives Matter movement. And so that's what I was referring to, is the fact that, in fact, in Huntington Beach, there was a large group of folks protesting stay-at-home orders, mostly white. They were literally covering the streets. There wasn't a police officer to be found. And yet, just the other weekend in Huntington Beach, literally the streets were lined with police officers in military riot gear against protesters. So let's pay attention to how the police are actually policing and how they're treating protesters differently. And frankly, I think the Black Lives Matter protesters around the world, as we're seeing, are ones that are fighting for justice, and they're not fighting against stay-at-home orders that are good for our public health.
We do have at least one witness who corroborates Nia's story. I'm looking for him. Where's? There he is. Yeah. So this is Marquez McCarver, 21 years old. He was there at the protest with his sister Nia, and he is a witness to what happened. We also have one or two people who have reached out to us just very recently, and we're going to follow up with them. Most importantly, of course, is video. Marquez, did you want to say anything? I don't want to put you on the spot. If you don't want to, it's okay. No? Okay. I think this probably says it all. And he also has made shirts. Can we show the shirt? Yep. Good. So thank you, Marquez. Justice for Nia.
Justice for Nia, you know what I'm saying?
I think that says it all. Any other questions? Thank you, everybody. We're happy to talk to you one-on-one if you like. Thank you.